3 months into the Great Freeze, the city is a tomb of snow and ice. You are alone, trapped in the ruins, and your supplies have finally run out. Just as hope begins to fade, a strange sound from a dilapidated corrugated shack becomes your only chance at survival. Good evening, friends. Tonight, we step into a frozen wasteland for a heart-pounding journey of survival. Do not be afraid. You are not alone. In this adventure, you will find a new companion to face the biting frost, stand against the greedy, and protect a flickering spark of hope together. If you're ready to begin tonight's journey, type "I am brave" in the comments. Now relax your body as the bell tolls and follow me into the abyss of the Great Freeze. The wind, at a lethal -42 degrees Celsius, feels like 1,000 icy needles piercing through your 3-layered jacket. It snakes down your collar, sending violent shudders through your body. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably. The white mist of your breath freezes instantly into tiny ice crystals, clinging to your eyelashes and blurring your vision. You lift a hand to brush them away with stiff, reddened fingertips. But the touch brings a searing pain, as if your skin is being sliced by invisible shards of ice. A creeping numbness spreads from your fingers to your arms, and even the strength to grip your trekking pole is slipping away. It has been 3 months since the frost descended. The power grid is dead, and tap water has frozen into solid pillars of ice. The city skyscrapers are now nothing more than gray silhouettes buried under heavy snow-silent tombstones in a white graveyard. As a former urban explorer, you are used to finding life in ruins, but now the very ground has turned to iron. With every step, you must drive your trekking pole hard into the frozen crust, just to stay upright. Each time the ice breaks, fine shards spray onto your trousers, freezing instantly into the fabric and dragging at your legs like lead weights. Your backpack is nearly empty, half a compressed biscuit, a small bottle of frozen water, and a multi-tool knife. This is your entire life savings. You must find supplies before sunset. At night, the temperature drops to -50 degrees Celsius, a level of cold that can stop a human heart in minutes. You look up at the leaden sky, no sun, no clouds, only an infinite suffocating cold that blankets the city like a giant shroud. Even the howl of the wind sounds like pure despair. As you struggle forward, on the verge of collapse, you hear a faint sound nearby. It isn't the wind or the shifting snow. It's the sound of someone moving something heavy and deliberate. Your survival instincts flare. You grip the knife in your pack and slow your pace, creeping toward the noise. Through the ice on your lashes, you squint through the dim light to see what lies ahead. You've reached an old industrial market on the outskirts of town. The once bustling stalls are buried, leaving only a few rusted iron shacks swaying in the wind. The sound is coming from the furthest one. Pressing your body against the frozen wall, you inch forward. The frost on the metal stings your cheek, making you flinch. Gritting your teeth, you hold your breath and peer around the corner. The door to the shack is cracked open. A tall figure is hunched over, hauling a heavy diesel drum inside. He wears a black tactical jacket, cinched tight at the neck and sleeves. His short hair is tossed by the wind, and his jawline is set in a hard, strained line. You can see the effort in his frame. His shoulders sag under the weight, and his muscles pull tight against his sleeves with every steady, heavy step. In this world, diesel is more precious than gold. It means power, warmth, and life. You hesitate. You need those supplies, but can this stranger be trusted? In the apocalypse, the human heart is often colder than the frost. Betrayal and greed are the new laws of the land. But you have no choice. Your supplies won't last another mile. You have to gamble. You take a deep breath and stand up to speak, but your boots slip on a patch of black ice. You lose your balance and tumble forward. Your trekking pole clatters against the ground with a sharp crack that echoes through the silence. The tall figure freezes. He spins around with eyes as sharp as daggers, locking onto you with cold suspicion. In a flash, he is leveling a modified nail gun directly at your chest. You sprawl in the snow, the freezing slush soaking into your jacket and numbing your skin. You try to get up, but your arms feel like they've been cast in lead. You look up, meeting his gaze without flinching. You don't speak. You simply spread your hands slowly to show you aren't a threat. Your fingertips won't stop shaking, not out of fear, but from the sheer, bone-deep cold. He stares at you for a long, heavy moment. His eyes sweep over your backpack and the trekking pole lying in the snow, then settle on your purple bruised lips and frozen, stiff limbs. The sharp edge of his gaze softens slightly, yet he does not lower the modified nail gun. He begins to walk toward you, his boots heavy against the snow, creating a rhythmic crunch that feels like it's echoing against your very heart. Up close, you can see the tiny ice crystals clinging to his face and a deep, buried exhaustion in his eyes. Stopping right in front of you, he reaches down, offering a hand to pull you up. His hand is large, his knuckles prominent and red from the cold. But unlike yours, his fingers aren't frozen stiff. The moment he grips your wrist, a faint warmth spreads through you like a sudden current, driving back a sliver of the biting chill. You instinctively grasp his hand. His palm is rough and covered in thick calluses, likely the result of years of hard labor. With a steady, powerful tug, he hauls you out of the snow. Once you are upright, your legs continue to shake. He releases your hand, bends down to retrieve your trekking pole, and hands it back. As your fingertips graze his, a fleeting, icy spark of contact passes between you. Shivering slightly, you take the pole and whisper a hoarse, "Thank you," your voice so raspy it is nearly swallowed by the howling wind. He doesn't respond, only gives a short nod before turning back to the diesel drum. His movements are steady, though his shoulders seem to sag a little deeper than before under the weight. You stand there, watching his silhouette for a moment of hesitation before stepping forward to grab the other end of the drum. He pauses and glances at you, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. You say nothing, just put your back into it and help him push. The drum is agonizingly heavy. Every step forward is a battle. Your arm muscles scream in pain, and your frozen fingers can barely maintain their grip. Sensing your struggle, he subtly shifts the angle, taking most of the weight onto himself. His arm brushes against yours, and that faint warmth returns, momentarily easing your frayed nerves. Finally, you manage to push the drum into the iron shack. Collapsing against the cold wall, you gasp for air, your white breath freezing into ice before your eyes. Your chest heaves violently, and your limbs won't stop trembling. It's slightly warmer inside. In the corner sits a small diesel generator and several neatly stacked supply crates. An old, thin carpet covered in a fine layer of dust lines the floor. He walks over to a corner, picks up a thermos, and pours a cup of warm water. He holds it out to you, his face still an unreadable mask, his eyes calm as if he's doing something entirely ordinary. As your fingers touch the warm metal, a wave of heat surges through your body. You take a hurried sip. The warmth coats your throat, chasing away the dryness and the frost, slowly bringing feeling back to your numb limbs. "Linyi," he says suddenly. His voice is deep and gravelly, sounding like it hasn't been used in a long time, but the two words are clear. You realize it is his name. You nod, looking up at him, and start to speak. "I am." Before you can finish, a faint whimpering sound cuts you off. It's soft, piteous, and nearly drowned out by the wind. But you both hear it. Linya's eyes sharpen instantly. He turns and moves toward the door. You follow him quickly, still clutching the thermos for courage. At the door, Linya cracks it open and peers out into the white void. You follow his gaze and see a small, dark shape huddled in the snow. It's almost entirely covered in white, save for a pair of wet, mournful eyes staring helplessly toward the shack. The whimpering is coming from there. It's a German shepherd pup, only a few months old. Its fur is matted with frozen icicles, and it's so thin it looks like a skeleton wrapped in skin. One of its back legs seems injured, tucked beneath its shivering body. It lies there in the drift, eyes wide with terror and desperation. The wind howls, dumping more fine snow onto the pup, but it doesn't even have the strength to shake it off. It can only let out that weak, broken cry, a final plea for help. Your heart skips a beat. Instinctively, you reach for the door, desperate to save it. But before you can move, Lin Yi's hand bolts around your wrist. His grip is iron, fingers nearly digging into your skin in a silent, stern warning. He tilts his head slightly, his eyes heavy with gravity. He shakes his head, telling you not to be reckless. You know exactly what he's thinking. In this wasteland, every extra mouth is a liability. Every burden is a death sentence. An injured pup doesn't just need food, it needs medical care. It is a drain on resources you simply don't have. But as you look into those helpless eyes, a memory of the dog you once had before the Great Freeze flashes through your mind. Compassion overpowers cold logic. You try to pull away, but his grip holds firm. You look up, meeting his eyes with a silent plea. For a few long seconds, he stares back, the hardness in his gaze slowly melting into a resigned sigh. He gradually releases your wrist, his fingertips brushing against your palm with a ghost of warmth. Then, he pushes the door open and leads the way out. You follow close behind as the biting wind rushes back in, more savage than before, hugging your jacket tight. You hurry to the puppy's side. Lin Yi leans down, reaching out cautiously. The pup trembles violently, its whimpers fading into a terrified shiver as it curls into a ball. Lin Yi pauses, softening his movements, and gently brushes the frost from its matted fur. His touch is surprisingly tender, like he's comforting a frightened child. You crouch down too, stroking its head. Its fur is icy and stiff with frozen needles. You move as lightly as possible, murmuring comfort. The pup seems to sense the kindness. Its trembling slows, and it lets out a tiny broken sigh, nuzzling your fingertip with a nose that still holds a faint, flickering warmth. Lin Ye inspects its back leg. A deep gash has soaked the surrounding fur in blood, now frozen into a dark, jagged crimson crust. It looks bad. We have to treat this inside, Lin Yi says, his voice low and gravelly. He scoops the pup up with practiced care. It's terrifyingly light, nothing but a bag of bones. He tucks it against his chest, shielding it from the gale with his body. With his other hand, he instinctively reaches out and pulls you closer to him, acting as a human shield against the wind. You stumble slightly against his arm, feeling the sudden surge of heat and strength radiating from him. For the first time since the world froze over, you feel a flicker of something you thought was gone forever, a sense of safety. Back inside the shack, the heavy door slams shut, cutting off the howling void. The air inside feels warmer now. Linya lays the pup on the tattered carpet and heads for the supply crates. You stay by the dog, stroking its ears as it huddles near your feet, its eyes still wide with lingering fear. Linya returns with a bottle of iodine, gauze, and some antibiotics. He kneels beside you, his shoulder brushing yours. That small point of contact sends a steadying warmth through your frayed nerves. He gently holds the pup's leg. The dog flinches and cries out in pain. You quickly steady its head to comfort it, your other hand instinctively gripping Linya's arm as if to ground yourself. You catch his eye, giving him a look that says, "Careful." Linya nods. His fingers are precise as he dabs the iodine onto the wound, missing not a single spot. As the antiseptic stings, the pup struggles, and you grip Linya's arm tighter, your knuckles turning white from the effort. Sensing your tension, his movements become even more delicate. He reaches out and gives the back of your hand a soft, reassuring pat, a silent comfort for both you and the dog. Once the leg is bandaged, Linya stands and stretches, his muscles stiff from the cramped position. He rubs his shoulder, his eyes clouded with exhaustion. You stand as well, looking down at the pup. It has finally closed its eyes, drifting into a deep sleep with a faint, peaceful twitch of its muzzle. You turn to Linya, a thank you resting on the tip of your tongue, but the words catch in your throat. You simply watch him, your eyes brimming with gratitude. He catches your gaze and offers a single silent nod before turning to the diesel generator. He flips the cover open, his fingers moving with a practiced, mechanical rhythm. He's clearly an expert. You stand by his side, watching his profile in the dim, gray light. His jaw is set tight, his focus absolute. Even the frost on his eyelashes seems to sharpen in the intensity of his concentration. Suddenly, he freezes, his brow furrows. He stands up and rubs the bridge of his nose, his expression turning grim. You lean in to see what's wrong, but the carpet slips beneath your boot. You lose your balance and instinctively grab his shoulder to steady yourself. His frame is broad and solid as iron. Even through the heavy fabric of his jacket, you can feel the heat of his body and the hardness of his muscle. He pauses, looking back at you with a hint of confusion. You let go immediately, feeling your cheeks flush with heat as you look away, the warmth of his shoulder still tingling in your fingertips. He doesn't dwell on it. He points to a broken component inside the machine. "The part is shot," he says, his voice a low rumble. "We need a replacement." You look at the part, then at the frozen world outside. You know how impossible that sounds in this wasteland. But you don't back down. You reach out, placing a firm hand on his arm and meeting his gaze with a look of pure determination. For a few seconds he just looks at you. The grim shadow in his eyes slowly fades, replaced by a spark of something warmer. He nods, reaching out to give your shoulder a light, encouraging squeeze. After a brief rest, you pack your gear, secure the pup, and lock the iron door, stepping back into the teeth of the gale. This time, Lin Yi carries the puppy inside his jacket, shielding it from the frost with his own body. His other hand stays close, reaching out to steady you whenever the ice threatens your balance. You walk side by side, slow, steady, and silent. The wind howls, blanketing you in fine snow, but neither of you flinches. In the vast white void, your silhouettes look fragile, yet unshakable. After an hour of trekking, you reach a derelict repair shop. The place has clearly been picked over. Rusted parts and broken tools lie buried under heavy drifts. Lin Yi pauses at the entrance, scanning for danger with the eyes of a hawk. Once he's sure it's clear, he leads you inside. The workshop is cavernous and slightly warmer than the open air, filled with the skeletal remains of cars and piles of scrap metal. You split up to search. Lin Yi, still clutching the pup, heads to the far side of the shop while you scan the frozen wreckage near the entrance. The silence is heavy, broken only by the clattering of metal, the pup's faint breathing, and the distant roar of the wind. You search for what feels like an eternity. Your fingers turn a painful, raw red, and the numbness begins to swallow your hands whole. Panic starts to set in. What if the part isn't here? Just as hope begins to flicker out, you hear a soft clink. You look up to see Lin Yi kneeling by a pile of scrap. He has placed the pup in a nearby wooden crate, where it's sleeping peacefully. You hurry over and crouch beside him. As your shoulders brush, the faint warmth of his presence calms your racing heart. "Found it," Lin Yi murmurs, a rare spark of triumph in his low voice. He holds up a small metal component. You take it, realizing it's the exact part needed for the generator. A smile breaks across your face, and as you look up at him with gratitude, his lips curl into a faint, subtle grin. It's the first time you've seen him smile. It's a small thing, but it feels like a ray of sunlight piercing through the frost, chasing away the despair in your soul. But the moment is shattered. Heavy, arrogant footsteps crunch through the snow at the entrance. Voices follow low, but sharp enough to cut through the wind. Lin Yi's expression instantly hardens. He pulls you toward him, scoops up the pup with one hand, and grips his modified nail gun with the other. His eyes fix on the door like a predator's. You press against his side, your fingers turning white as you grip his arm. You're trembling, not just from the cold, but from the sudden surge of adrenaline, sensing your fear. Lin Yi gives your back a firm, steadying pat. He glances at you, his eyes a steel wall of protection. "I've got you," they seem to say. Several shadows darken the doorway. They are dressed in filth-stained rags, armed with crude weapons. Their faces twisted into hungry, arrogant sneers, scavengers. Their eyes lock onto the puppy and the shiny metal part in your hand with pure greed. The leader, a man with a jagged, cruel smile, begins to stalk toward you. Lin Yi steps in front of you, shielding you with his body. He levels the nail gun at the leader's chest, his silence more terrifying than any threat. He stands like an iron pillar, an aura of lethal calm radiating from him. The leader stops, his grin widening into something monstrous. He whistles, and his crew fans out, surrounding you in a tightening circle of steel and malice. You huddle behind Linyi, clutching his jacket. You can feel the tension in his muscles, the coiled energy of a man ready to explode. He looks back at you, then at the pup, his eyes grave. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he signals for you to back away. It's a quiet gesture, but it carries the weight of an absolute command. Thinking Linyi is backing down, the leader erupts into a harsh, grating laugh. He lunges forward, reaching out to snatch the puppy. But Linyi is faster. In a blur of motion, he pivots, dodging the man's grasp. Thwip. The nail gun barks. A steel spike buries itself in the leader's arm. The man screams, stumbling back as his blood hits the floor, freezing into crimson ice almost instantly. The rest of the gang charges. Linyi dodges a swinging pipe, pulling you aside by the wrist just as a blade whistles past your ear. You are knocked off balance, but as soon as you find your feet, you whip out your multi-tool knife. Your arms are stiff and you aren't a fighter, but you refuse to be a burden. You're going to fight. What follows is a chaotic dance of survival. Linyi is a force of nature. Even with the puppy in one arm, his movements are lethal and precise. The nail gun spits fire, and the screams of the scavengers echo through the hollow rafters. You find your opening lunging at a scavenger who is distracted. Your blade finds his arm. He howls and reels back, eyes filled with murderous rage as he prepares to lung back at you. Suddenly, Linyi is there. He steps between you, catching the man's wrist in a grip that sounds like breaking wood. With a cold, merciless twist, a sickening crack fills the air. The scavenger collapses, wailing in agony. Linyi turns to you for a split second, his eyes softened by a flash of worry. He reaches out and gives your head a quick tender pat, the way one might soothe a child before spinning back into the fray. 10 minutes later, the shop is silent again. The scavengers are either fled, broken on the floor, or silenced forever. The leader lies still, the life drained from his eyes. Linyi stands in the center of the carnage, heaving for air. He's covered in snow and flecks of blood. A shallow gash on his arm is weeping red, the blood already turning to ice. He looks exhausted, but his gaze remains unbroken. You rush to him, grabbing his arm to check the wound. It's long and jagged. Your heart aches as you lead him to a crate and force him to sit. You pull the iodine and gauze from your pack, your touch as light as a feather. As your fingers brush his skin, you feel the heat of his body and a slight, involuntary tremor. Your chest tightens with a sudden, overwhelming surge of protective warmth for this man who just risked everything for you. Linyi sits in silence, his eyes fixed on you. There's a newfound warmth in his gaze, a trace of tenderness he can no longer hide. He watches your focused expression, your frost-reddened fingertips, and the tiny ice crystals clinging to your lashes, and the softness in his eyes deepens. You finish bandaging his arm with meticulous care, then look up at him. You don't say a word, your eyes, filled with quiet worry, say everything. He reaches out, his thumb gently brushing the frost from your cheek. His touch is light, carrying a faint, lingering heat, a gesture so tender it feels as if he's handling a priceless treasure. You shiver slightly, your cheeks flushing. You instinctively start to pull away, but he places a hand on your shoulder. It's a gentle hold, yet it carries an undeniable strength. He leans in closer, so close. You can feel the warmth of his breath against your skin, chasing away the bite of the air. "It's okay now," he murmurs. His voice is a low, raspy velvet, meant to soothe you as much as himself. You nod, leaning your head against his shoulder. As his strength and warmth seep into you, a sudden wave of suppressed emotion hits you. For the first time since the world froze over, you've let your guard down. For the first time, someone is standing between you and the storm. He doesn't pull away. He simply gives your back a steadying pat. In his arms, the puppy lets out a tiny whimper, nuzzling against his sleeve as if it, too, can feel the change in the air. After a short rest, you gather your things and lead the pup out of the ruins, heading back to the shack. The sky has bruised into a dark twilight. The wind has turned vicious as the temperature plummets to a lethal -50 degrees Celsius. The snow has hardened into jagged sheets of ice, making every step a battle. Lin Yi keeps the pup shielded inside his jacket, while his other hand grips yours tightly, pulling it into his pocket. His palm is a furnace, wrapping around your frozen fingers and driving out the chill. Huddled against his side, you match your stride to his. In the vast white void, you are just two shadows and a small life clinging to one another against the encroaching despair. You watch his profile, the iron set of his jaw, the bandage on his arm from protecting you, and a spark of conviction flares in your chest. As long as he is here, as long as you fight together, you will survive. You will find the dawn. Back at the iron shack, Lin Yi sets the pup down and moves to the generator. His hands move with mechanical grace as he installs the replacement part. He flips the switch, and the machine hums to life with a steady whir. A dim glow fills the room, and a wave of artificial heat begins to radiate outward, pushing back the shadows. You stand by him, watching that small light. It's the first time you felt the warmth of civilization since the collapse. The first real taste of hope. Lin Yi turns, a faint smile ghosting his lips. He takes your hand and leads you to sit by the humming machine. From his pack, he produces half a compressed biscuit and a small bottle of warm water. When he hands them to you, you break the biscuit in half and offer it back. He doesn't refuse. You eat together in the quiet hum of the shack. The room is silent save for the generator and the soft breathing of the pup. The contrast is jarring. Inside, there is peace. Outside, a frozen hell leaning against his shoulder, sipping the warm water. You feel a profound sense of security. Perhaps this apocalypse isn't so terrifying after all. Not when you have someone to share the burden with. After finishing the rations, Lin Yi pulls the pup close, stroking its head with a gentle hand. The little one sleeps soundly, a faint curve touching its muzzle. You lean against his shoulder, and as your eyes drift shut, a tidal wave of exhaustion washes over you. This single day held a lifetime of experience, from the brink of despair to the discovery of hope, from the crushing weight of solitude to the quiet strength of companionship. Sensing your weariness, Lin Yi shifts slightly, adjusting his posture to make you more comfortable. His other hand finds yours, gripping it with a tenderness that suggests he is shielding a priceless treasure. Resting there, your sleep is deep and undisturbed. No nightmares, no biting cold, only a profound sense of warmth and security. In your dreams, the world before the great freeze returns. The sun is brilliant. Flowers are in full bloom, and you are running through a vibrant green meadow with Lin Yi and the pup. Everyone is laughing, the air is filled with joy, and the word despair does not exist. Your lips curl into a faint smile, and your fingers instinctively tighten around Lin Yi's hand. He feels the pressure and responds with a firm, steady squeeze, his eyes shimmering with a quiet, fierce resolve. Deep in the night, the generator hums on, its low vibration a heartbeat in the stillness. The iron shack is a pocket of peace. Lin Yi remains awake, watching your sleeping face in the dim glow, as he traces the soft lines of your features, and that lingering smile, the tenderness in his gaze deepens. He reaches out to brush a stray lock of hair from your forehead, his touch as light as a falling feather, terrified of waking you. In his arms, the pup stirs slightly, nuzzling against him in its sleep. He looks toward the window, outside. The world is a pitch-black abyss. The wind howls like a wounded beast as the temperature plummets to a lethal -58 degrees Celsius. The city is still a frozen grave, and the shadow of hopelessness still looms. But in his heart, the hollow ache of loneliness has vanished. He knows that from this moment on, he is no longer alone. He has you, he has the pup. He has a reason to live, clasping your hand and feeling the warmth of your pulse. He stares into the night with eyes full of steel. No matter how brutal the path ahead, he will do whatever it takes to protect this fragile spark of hope. The next morning, A thin sliver of pale sunlight pierces through the cracks of the iron walls, casting a golden beam across the carpet. You wake to find yourself still wrapped in his warmth, your hand still locked in his. The pup is already awake, its wet nose gently nudging your fingertips. Sensing you've stirred, Linye tilts his head. A faint, tired smile touches his lips as he murmurs in a low, gravelly voice. Awake? You nod, looking up at him through a haze of lingering dreams. You make a small movement to withdraw your hand, but he holds fast, and you find yourself leaning into his strength once more. He taps your head playfully yet gently before finally letting go. He stands and cracks the door open, scanning the horizon with a hunter's precision. The snow has piled higher, and the wind hasn't relented. But the arrival of daylight brings a flicker of possibility to this desolate land. He turns back and gives you a sharp, certain nod. It's safe. As you stand and stretch, the leaden fatigue in your limbs begins to lift, replaced by a surge of renewed energy. You pet the pup, who responds with a happy wag of its tail. Meanwhile, Linye is already sorting through their meager supplies. He hands you water and a biscuit before turning his attention to the generator, ensuring their mechanical lifeline is stable. Today, we transform this place, Linye says, his voice ringing with quiet authority. He takes your hand and leads you to the window. The windows are too large. They let the heat out and the wind in. We need to seal them, find insulation, and reinforce the door against more scavengers. You grip his hand tight, your silence speaking volumes of your shared determination. You know the work will be grueling and the resources scarce, but you don't hesitate. You want to help him turn this cold metal box into a home of fortress where you and the pup can truly belong. After a quick meal, you gather your tools and head back into the white void. Side by side, hand in hand, your shared body heat is a shield against the frost. You trek to a nearby abandoned apartment complex, a skeletal ruin buried in snow. Inside the silent halls, you split up to scavenge. Linye hunts for timber and nails, while you search for insulation and old clothing. The pup follows at your heels, a small shadow in the gloom. Eventually, you find a cache of old quilts and down jackets, heavy, dusty, but perfect for trapping heat. You gather them up, the weight a welcome burden of potential warmth. As you head for the stairs, you run into Linye. He's carrying a stack of boards, his face streaked with dust and frost, his bandages snagged and loose. Yet his gaze is steady. He sees you and his expression softens. He steps forward to take the heaviest of your load, his hand instantly finding yours to guide you down the treacherous steps. "We found a lot," he says, his voice a low, gravelly whisper, yet carrying a surprising softness. You nod, a small smile playing on your lips. You don't say a word, content to just follow him quietly as you head downstairs. The moment you reach the ground floor, the pup rushes over, darting around your feet with its tail wagging in sheer delight. Linye leans down, stroking its head with a gentle hand before scooping up a load of timber and insulation. He reaches out, taking your hand in his, and guides you back toward the iron shack. Once inside, you immediately begin the transformation. Linye takes charge of reinforcing the door and sealing the windows. He hammers boards over the glass with focused precision, ensuring every nail is driven deep to keep the biting gale at bay. Your task is the insulation, lining the walls and the boarded windows with old quilts and down jackets to trap every precious degree of heat. Between tasks, you tend to the pup, offering it warm water and what little food you can spare. At one point, Linye stands on a chair to reach the top of a window frame. The chair wobbles under his weight, and his frame sways. You immediately drop the insulation and rush over, bracing the chair with your body. You reach out, steadying him by the leg to keep him balanced. He pauses, looking down at you with a flicker of warmth in his eyes and a faint smile. "I am okay, don't worry," he murmurs. You nod but don't let go, holding firm until he finishes and steps down. As you finally release your grip, your fingertips graze the fabric of his trousers, leaving a trace of lingering warmth. The two of you work in seamless harmony from dawn until dusk. Slowly, the iron shack begins to change. The windows are now sealed behind thick wood and heavy layers of quilts, The door has been reinforced until it's a fortress that no scavenger could easily breach. The carpet has been cleared and layered with thick blankets, turning the floor into a warm nest. In the corner, your supplies are neatly stacked, and the generator hums its steady, comforting tune, radiating a soft heat that fills the room. By the end of the day, you are both drained. Every muscle aches, and your fingers are a raw, frozen red. You notice the bandage on Linyi's arm is once again soaked with fresh blood, the price of his relentless labor. You lead him to the blankets and make him sit. With aching heart, you carefully peel back the stained gauze to clean and dress his wound again. You move with the utmost care, terrified of causing him more pain, your eyes filled with a quiet, protective sorrow. Linya sits in total silence, watching you. His gaze is fixed on your face, filled with a mixture of tenderness and silent gratitude. He reaches out, his hand moving with a feather-light touch as he strokes your hair, a gesture of comfort for you, and a silent thank you for himself. Once the wound is dressed and bound, you lean into his chest. Feeling the steady thrum of his heart and the sheer strength of his frame, you are overwhelmed by a sense of absolute safety. The pup scampers over, curling up tightly against the both of you. It closes its eyes and drifts into a peaceful sleep. The shack is quiet now, save for the hum of the generator and the pup's rhythmic breathing. It is a pocket of peace in a dying world. Linya wraps his arms around you, holding you as if you were the most precious treasure left on earth. He rests his chin lightly on the top of your head, his eyes reflecting an iron-willed resolve and a profound, hidden gentleness. From now on, he whispers into your ear, his voice low and raspy. This is our home. It sounds like a promise. It sounds like a prayer. You nod, wrapping your arms tightly around his waist and burying your face in his chest. You feel his warmth radiating through his clothes. Yes, you think this is home. In this frozen apocalypse, this is your only sanctuary. The hope that you will survive because you are no longer alone. As the night deepens, the wind outside rises to a terrifying howl. The temperature has dropped to -62 degrees Celsius, the coldest night yet. A lethal, absolute frost blankets the city, and despair continues its slow crawl across the world. But inside the iron shack there is only warmth and hope. The generator glows, and the three of you huddle together, shielding each other from the void. You know the road ahead will be brutal. There will be more danger, more hunger, and more battles to fight. But the fear is gone. You know Linyi will be there, the pup will be there. Together, you will endure the frost. Together, you will wait for the dawn. Together, you will wait for the dawn. Together, you will survive until the flowers bloom once more. The days pass in a slow, rhythmic blur of survival within the confines of the iron shack. Every day, Linyi ventures out into the frozen void to scavenge for supplies and fuel, while you remain behind the keeper of the sanctuary. You manage the rations, maintain the generator, and reinforce the insulation. Every time he leaves, he grips your hand tight, his voice heavy with a single command. Stay safe. Don't open the door for anyone until I'm back. You nod and hold him close, watching from the threshold until his silhouette is swallowed by the endless white. Only then do you retreat inside, the silence filled with a gnawing mixture of worry and hope as you wait for his return. Occasionally, Linyi encounters other survivors, desperate souls begging for help or looking to trade. In those moments, he is a wall of ice, his eyes scanning for any hint of malice before deciding their fate. You stand by his side through every encounter, gripping his hand, exchanging silent glances, and navigating the razor-thin line between humanity and self-preservation. Then came the day an elderly man and a young child appeared at the door. They had nothing. The child was shivering so violently his face had turned a ghostly, translucent white. He looked as though he was seconds away from slipping away. Linya's expression was grim. He looked at them, then at you, the hesitation clear in his eyes. You both knew the math of the apocalypse. 2 more mouths meant faster dwindling supplies and a dangerous target on your backs. But looking at the boy's hollow eyes and the old man's silent plea, your heart overrode your logic. You reached out, tugging gently on Linya's sleeve, meeting his gaze with a wordless, persistent prayer. Linya searched your eyes for a long moment. Finally, the iron in his gaze softened into a weary kind of grace. He nodded slowly and gave your shoulder a reassuring pat before pushing the door open to let them in. You immediately swung into action, wrapping the child in heavy quilts and pressing warm water into their trembling hands. Linyi went to the crates, pulling out compressed biscuits to offer them. A small fortune in this frozen world. The old man and the child were overwhelmed with gratitude, their voices cracking as they thanked you. You and Linya simply shook your heads, watching them in silence. That night, the shack felt different. It was no longer just two people and a dog. It was a home filled with the sounds of breathing and soft conversation. It was crowded, but it was warm. Linyi held you close on the blankets, while the pup curled at your feet and the newcomers slept soundly on the other side. As you felt the heat of his body, looking at this small cluster of lives you had saved, a surge of pure happiness hit you. It was a simple, fragile joy, the first real piece of light you'd felt since the collapse. But in this world, happiness is a target. Danger arrived on the third day of their stay. A gang of scavengers descended on the shack, larger and better armed than the ones before. They didn't just ask, they attacked. They hammered on the door, their shouts arrogant and piercing, echoing through the deathly silent frost. They sounded like they knew exactly what and who was inside. Lin Yi's face turned to stone. In an instant, he pushed you behind him, shielding the elderly man and the child in the corner with the pup standing guard. He leveled his modified nail gun at the door, his body coiled like a spring. You gripped the hem of his jacket, your body trembling, not with fear, but with the electric charge of adrenaline. Looking at the terrified faces of the guests you had welcomed, a new resolve hardened in your chest. You would stand with Lin Yi. You would protect this home. The scavengers were relentless. Despite the reinforcements, the wood began to splinter, the cracks widening with every heavy blow. The door was about to give. Suddenly, Lin Yi turned to you. His eyes were filled with a heavy, aching sorrow. He reached out and pulled you into a fierce, brief embrace, his hold tender but final. "Listen to me," he whispered, his voice vibrating against your chest. "I'm going to open the door and draw them away. The moment I do, take the old man, the kid, and the dog. Climb out through the back window and run toward the repair shop. There are places to hide there. Go now." You shake your head violently, wrapping your arms around his waist, refusing to let go. Your eyes plead with him in a silent scream. You don't want to leave. You want to fight by his side, to protect this sanctuary you built together, even if it means dying with him. Lin Yi gazes down at you for a long, heavy second. The pain of parting in his eyes slowly gives way to a fierce, tender resolve. He reaches out, cupping your cheek with fingertips that carry a ghost of warmth. "Be brave," he whispers, his voice cracking. "Protecting them is how you protect me. Trust me. I'll find you once I've dealt with them. Just trust me." You know his mind is made up. Gritting your teeth, you nod and finally let go. Tears spill over, and before they can even track down your cheeks, they freeze into tiny grains of ice. Lin Yi gently brushes away the frozen tears, his touch a fleeting caress. Then he turns away. Each step toward the door is steady and iron-willed. Without a single glance back, you watch his retreating silhouette, the blood-stained bandages on his arm, the broad shoulders carrying the weight of your lives, and a sharp, visceral ache twists in your chest. Biting back a sob, you turn to grab the elderly man and the child, scooping up the pup as you dash toward the back window. Just as you swing the window open to usher the others out, a deafening crack echoes through the shack. The door gives way. Scavengers flood into the room like a pack of starving wolves, lunging at Lin Yi. He spins around instantly, the modified nail gun barking as he holds the line. Spike after spike finds its mark, and the air is filled with the jagged screams of the wounded. But they are too many. You see Lin Yi's strength beginning to fail. The gash on his arm has torn open again, blooming a fresh, vivid crimson across the gauze. His face is turning a deathly, translucent white. Watching him being swarmed, seeing him bleed for your escape, a wave of pure despair washes over you. You start to turn back, ready to throw yourself into the fray. But the old man's hand clamps onto your arm with surprising strength. He shakes his head, his eyes brimming with a desperate plea. Child, don't going back is suicide. You have to listen to him. Protect us, protect yourself. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing. You grit your teeth so hard it hurts, forcing down the hollow ache in your soul. With one last agonizing look at Linya's figure amidst the chaos, your tears fall once more. Taking a ragged breath, you turn away and lead the old man and the child out the window into the white void. The wind howls, lashing you with fine crystalline snow that bites into your skin. But you don't dare stop. You don't dare look back. You run until your lungs burn like fire, knowing that their survival is the only thing that gives Linyi's stand any meaning. Only by living do you have a chance to see him again. After an hour of frantic trekking, you finally reach the ruins of the repair shop. You huddle in a hidden alcove buried beneath rusted parts and derelict tools. A perfect freezing cage of safety. You set the pup down and settle the old man and the child into the shadows. Peering out cautiously toward the direction of the shack, you see nothing but an infinite, blinding white. The sounds of battle are long gone. Silence, cold and absolute, fills the air. A terrifying void opens in your heart. Is he still alive? Is he coming for you? You stand frozen, staring into the distance until your limbs feel like lead and your fingertips turn a raw, bruised red. You pray silently, a desperate mantra for his safety, for his return. The old man steps up beside you, patting your shoulder with a trembling hand. Don't lose heart, child, he whispers. He is a warrior, he'll find us. You nod, unable to find your voice, your eyes searching the horizon with a mix of fragile hope and crushing dread. Time loses its meaning as the sky bruises into a dark, lethal violet. The temperature has plummeted to a bone-snapping -60°C. Inside your hiding spot, the cold is becoming a physical weight. The old man and the child are fading. The boy is curled in a tight ball in the old man's arms, his face a haunting shade of blue-purple, his lips cracked and dry. He no longer has the strength to cry. His breath is a mere flutter, his eyelashes heavy with thick frost like a candle about to gutter out. The old man's cough is a constant raspy sound that seems to tear at his very chest, his frail body shivering uncontrollably under his tattered rags. He doesn't even have the strength left to stroke the child's hair. You pull the pup closer, shielding it against your chest, while your other hand white-knuckles a tattered quilt, trying desperately to cocoon the old man and the child. But at 60 degrees below zero, that thin fabric is a pathetic shield. The bone-deep chill snatches away what little warmth remains, biting through every seam in your clothes. Your fingertips have long since surrendered to the cold. They are numb, frozen claws that no longer have the strength to even let go of the blanket. Your cheeks are a bruised purple. Every tear that escapes freezes instantly, sliding down your jaw and clattering into the snow like tiny, crystalline stones. You keep your eyes fixed on the path back to the shack, but hope is a dying flame, slowly being snuffed out by despair. You murmur Lin Yi's name like a mantra, a prayer for a miracle. But the endless white remains empty. There is only the howling gale, laughing at your fragility, mocking your helplessness. The pup seems to sense the end. It whimpers softly, nuzzling your frozen palm with its warm nose, a tiny flickering spark of life that isn't enough to thaw the ice in your soul. Just as the darkness begins to take you, just as you accept that this frozen corner will be your grave, you hear it. A sound. Not the wind, not the shifting ice footsteps. They are heavy, dragging, yet hauntingly familiar. They cut through the roar of the storm with terrifying clarity. Your entire body seizes. You bolt your head up, searching the gray gloom. You blink back the frost on your lashes until your vision clears, your heart hammering against your ribs so hard it feels like it might burst. A tall silhouette emerges from the twilight. He is staggering, his frame draped in snow and dark, frozen smears of blood. His tactical jacket is shredded, revealing layers underneath soaked in crimson. The bandages on his arm are no longer white. They are frozen blocks of jagged, dark red ice. He looks broken, battered, A man who has crawled back from the gates of hell, but he still carries that same unbreakable aura of strength. It's Lin Yi, he came back. You launch yourself toward him, but your frozen legs are like lead. Within steps, your balance fails, and you pitch forward into the snow. But Lin Yi is faster. Despite his wounds, he lunges forward, catching your wrist in his massive hand before you hit the ground. His palm is a furnace. The heat of his skin sears through your frozen nerves, a jolt of life that screams through your body, driving back the lethal chill. But as he holds you, you feel it. His hand is trembling. He is at the absolute end of his strength. I'm here, he rasps. His voice is a broken, hollow shadow of what it was. Every word a Herculean effort, yet it still holds that same gentle, grounding power. He pulls you up with a surge of waning strength and draws you into a fierce embrace. He smells of iron-scented blood and sharp diesel. A scent that, to you, is the only salvation in this world. You bury your face in his chest, clinging to his waist, as if he were the only solid thing in a collapsing universe. Your tears fall again, hitting his jacket and turning to ice in an instant. He doesn't let go. Using his uninjured arm, he holds you tight, his fingers moving through your hair with an aching tenderness, melting the frost that has gathered there. He rests his chin on the top of your head. You can feel the heavy, labored thrum of his lungs and the violent tremors racking his body. He is exhausted beyond measure, yet he fought through the void to find you. After a moment, he gently pulls back. He brushes the ice and tear tracks from your face, his touch filled with a quiet, agonizing pity. Then he turns to the old man and the child. His eyes cloud with guilt and heartache. He staggers toward the corner, kneeling with effort to check on the boy. The child has slipped into a deep coma, his face a haunting shade of violet, his breath a mere ghost of a flutter. Lin Yi reaches out, touching the boy's forehead. The faint warmth from his fingertips causes the child to stir slightly, letting out a weak, broken whimper, the sound of a life still fighting to stay. We need to find a warmer spot, get some warm water and food into them. Lin Yi's voice is low but forged with steel. He straightens up, his large hand wrapping around your wrist to pull you close. He leans down and scoops the unconscious child into his arms, tucking the small body deep inside his own jacket to shield him from the biting gale. With his other hand, he reaches out to support the elderly man, his movements incredibly gentle, as if the old man were made of glass. You move in quickly, bracing the old man's other arm to take some of the weight. He is terrifyingly light, little more than a bundle of frozen clothes, and you can feel the violent tremors racking his frame. Lin Yi catches your eye, a flicker of warmth softening his tired gaze. He gives the back of your hand a reassuring pat, a silent thank you that sends a surge of strength through your heart. Supporting the elderly man and cradling the child, you venture deeper into the labyrinth of the repair shop, the pup trailing close behind. Lin Yi knows this place like the back of his hand. He tells you that deep within the facility lies an abandoned operator's cabin. Inside, there are tattered seats and a secret cache he left behind, a small jug of diesel and some old blankets. It's a meager sanctuary, but perhaps enough to give the man and the child a fighting chance to recover. The wind howls through the cavernous shop, whipping fine, crystalline snow into your faces until you're shivering to the bone. Lin Yi staggers slightly, the weight of the child pulling at his exhausted frame. The gash on his arm has split wide again under the strain. Fresh crimson seeps through the gaps in his bandages, dripping onto the snow and instantly freezing into dark, jagged pearls of ice. Your heart aches at the sight. You reach out, your hand trembling as you grab his arm, desperate to share his burden, but he simply gives a firm, quiet shake of his head. His gaze remains fixed forward, unbroken and absolute, and his stride, though heavy, never falters. After what feels like an eternity of trekking through the dark, you finally find the cabin. The door and windows are a wreck, the glass long ago shattered into dust. The freezing draft still moans through the cracks, but it's a godsend compared to the lethal void outside. Lin Yi lays the child down on a tattered seat with agonizing care. Then he turns and pulls the small jug of diesel, a worn lighter, and those precious, tattered blankets from his pack. He pours the diesel into a battered iron basin in the corner and flicks his lighter. A small, fragile flame instantly dances to life, casting a dim glow and a sliver of heat that slowly begins to drive the biting chill from the cabin. The firelight flickers across Linye's face, illuminating the exhaustion etched into his features, but also the unwavering resolve and tenderness deep within his eyes. You move quickly, spreading the tattered blankets over the seats and helping the elderly man sit. Then, you take another blanket and tuck it around the man and the child, desperate to trap every ounce of warmth for them. Linyi walks over to you. He reaches out, gently taking your hand and tucking it into his jacket pocket. His palm is a furnace, wrapping around your frozen fingers and chasing away the numbness that had begun to claim you. He leans his weight against your shoulder, his body finally beginning to relax as a tidal wave of fatigue crashes over him. His breathing grows heavy, and you can tell the wound on his arm is still throbbing with pain. Yet he refuses to let go, his grip on your hand firm and steady. The raiders, their nest is gone. They won't be coming back, he murmurs, his voice low and raspy with exhaustion. He leans close to your ear, his breath, a faint warmth against the cold. I'm sorry I was late. I'm sorry you had to endure all of this. You shake your head, pressing yourself against him. You reach out, your fingers barely brushing the bandages on his arm with a touch as light as a whisper, careful not to cause him any more pain. You don't need words. You simply stay there in silence, grounding yourself in his warmth and the quiet, fierce strength of his presence. The pup curls at your feet, its eyes drifting shut as it finally succumbs to sleep. In the corner, the flame continues its steady dance, radiating a faint, precious warmth. The cabin is heavy with a deep silence, broken only by the soft crackle of the fire, and the fragile, rhythmic breathing of the old man and the child, intermingled with your own heavy sighs of relief. Linyi reaches out and pulls you close, shielding you within his embrace. He rests his chin gently atop your head, closing his eyes as he takes in your warmth. In the reflection of the firelight, his gaze is a mix of unshakable resolve and a newfound tenderness. He whispers that once the man and the child regain their strength, he will take you all to find Lao Feng. He tells you that Lao Feng has supplies, frostbite cream, antibiotics, plenty of rations, and clean water. More importantly, Lao Feng might know the way to the official sanctuary. He promises you, his voice low and steady, that he will never let you come to harm again. He will give everything he has to protect you, the old man, the child, and the pup. He will guard this hard-won warmth with his very life. As the night deepens, the gale outside continues its relentless howl. The temperature remains terrifyingly low, a lethal, absolute frost that still grips the entire city in its suffocating hold. Despair still lingers in the shadows of the ruins, but inside this small cabin there is only warmth and light. The flickering flame dances on the walls, casting its glow over your huddled silhouettes, reflecting the peaceful faces of the sleeping man and child, and the quiet, steady form of the pup, leaning into Linyi's embrace. You ground yourself in his heat and his unwavering strength as you watch the lives you've saved and listen to the steady rhythmic drum of his heartbeat. A profound sense of security washes over you. You know that the road ahead will be brutal. You know there will be more dangers to face, more challenges to overcome, and more struggles that will test your very soul. But you are no longer afraid, because you know that Linyi will be by your side. The old man, the child, and the pup will be with you. Together you will endure the cold. Together you will stand against the dark. You will stay alive together, holding on to each other until the rescue teams from the official sanctuary find you, until the day the frost finally breaks and the flowers bloom once more. You will wait for that morning when the extreme cold recedes and the golden sunlight finally floods the earth again. You gently tighten your grip on Linyi's hand, feeling the living warmth radiating from his fingertips. In response, he gives your hand a soft, firm squeeze, a hold that is both protective and incredibly tender. Beside you, the small flame continues its rhythmic dance, casting a golden light that warms the cold metal of the cabin and the depths of your weary hearts. In this frozen apocalypse, this lingering warmth, the simple act of staying together and shielding one another becomes your greatest strength. It is a spark that will carry you forward, one step at a time, toward a new world and a new hope. It is a flame that will never ever go out.